For the best performance by an actress in a supporting role, the Oscar goes to Marisa Tomei in My Cousin Vinny.
The Academy Award went to Marisa Tomei for her stunning turn in My Cousin Vinny. But her impact on the picture extends well beyond her role as Mona Lisa Vito. The casting directors at the studio originally had their doubts about her ability to play the independent Brooklyn girlfriend of a young lawyer. Nevertheless, filmmaker Jonathan Lynn decided to cast Tomei despite her relative unknown status because he saw promise in her. In this comic classic, Marisa Tomei's performance is filled with unexpected turns, from casting disagreements to set shocks. Was Marisa Tomei instrumental in the creation of My Cousin Vinny, which ultimately contributed to its success? Find out by watching until the very end. Jonathan Lynn, Dale Launer, and Paul Schiff collaborated to create the comedic classic My Cousin Vinny on March 13, 1992. It has a fantastic ensemble. Ralph Macchio and Mitchell Whitfield give stellar performances as Stan and Bill respectively, while Joe Pesci steals the show as Vinny Gambini. The Oscar-winning performance of Marisa Tomei as Mona Lisa Vito is the film's shining light. Lane Smith, Bruce McGill, and Fred Gwynne, who played Judge Chamberlain Haller in the film, all make cameo appearances. Two college students from New York, Bill Gambini and Stan Rothstein, go on a cross-country road journey to California in this legendary film released by 20th Century Fox. They make a pit break at an Alabama convenience store before facing erroneous murder charges and a trial. Vinny, Bill's cousin and a young lawyer with more street smarts than legal acumen, is their last hope. Courtroom humor ensues when Vinny's cocky Brooklyn demeanor and ignorance of trials collide with the stuffy Southern setting. A hilarious film about legal blunders, miscommunication, and Vinny's battles with Southern culture. In spite of its comedic tone, My Cousin Vinny depicts the intricacies of criminal prosecutions with startling accuracy. The film's masterful blend of comedy and reality has won over viewers and legal experts alike, solidifying its status as a masterpiece. Another bold move was to have Marisa Tomei play the feisty Mona Lisa Vito. Tomei had a soap opera part and other minor appearances at that time. The studio had doubts about her ability to provide the role's required comic intensity and attitude. Nonetheless, her abilities were recognized by filmmaker Jonathan Lynn. Even though she portrayed a fiery housekeeper in the 1991 comedy Oscar, he saw Mona Lisa as a charming and perceptive character who might counter Vinny's frantic energy and lack of experience. Even though the studio wanted a larger name, Lynn insisted on Tomei. The legendary "Oh yeah, you blend" line, delivered by Tomei, expertly combined sarcasm with real concern, removing any doubts and laying the tone for her unforgettable performance. In addition to her wit and biting repartee, Mona Lisa is incredibly loyal, bright, and shockingly car-savvy, which plays a significant role in the film's denouement. Oscar Gold for Best Supporting Actress and critical acclaim for Tomei's performance propelled her to superstardom. The studio was hesitant to cast Tomei at first and considered casting Lorraine Bracco, who was famous for her performance in The Sopranos, as a new Mona Lisa. Interesting, because I don't think anybody else could have matched Vinny's charisma. The outspoken comedian Andrew Dice Clay was the studio's initial pick to play Vinny. In addition to Robert De Niro and Jim Belushi, other notable actors, including Danny DeVito and Peter Falk, were also considered. But they didn't have the authentic Italian-American flavor that was required of the part. Joe Pesci, who had just finished filming Lethal Weapon 2 and was acclaimed for his role in Goodfellas, was cast as the lead. He gave Vinny just the right amount of raw energy, grit, and comic timing. Boone County, Alabama, the setting of Vinny's struggle for his cousin's freedom, may not be as it appears. Georgia was the actual location for the filming of the charming villages and rolling hills that give the South its true charm and warmth. To represent Boone County, the picturesque Georgia village of Monell was used. The Grand Courthouse, which is really the Jasper County Superior Court, and Lucy's secondhand store, where Vinny and Mona Lisa investigate the vital tire impressions, are still open to the public. Boone County is a made-up place that doesn't actually exist in Alabama. This fact adds to the odd character of the picture. For true fans of My Cousin Vinny, a visit to Monette isn't complete without seeing the Sacco's Suds convenience store where the crime took place. Filming took place in the Lee Arden Correctional Institute in Alto, Georgia, for the prison sequences, which lends the picture a realistic vibe. Did you know that a real-life occurrence served as the inspiration for the comedic courtroom sequences in My Cousin Vinny, thanks to some geographical trickery? Dale Launer, a screenwriter, had a talk about it in the 1970s. Launer, who has been in films such as Dirty Rotten Scoundrels and Ruthless People, met a young guy who was anxiously awaiting the results of his bar test. To satisfy his curiosity, Launer inquired as to his plan B in the event of a failure. So what's the solution? He would simply recapture it until he succeeded. The number of times someone has failed the bar test and yet managed to become a lawyer is something that made Launer think. I tried 13 times before I finally succeeded. What sort of lawyer would this be? What if they were a person's sole chance for a fair trial after being falsely accused of a major crime? These questions ignited Launer's imagination. Put yourself in the shoes of a young attorney who, after failing the bar exam 13 times in a row, finds himself unexpectedly accused of murder in the South and must defend his cousin. My Cousin Vinny was based on this awkward situation. There were already enough obstacles due to the cultural mismatch, a hostile tiny town, and the foreign judicial system, but Launer made things worse. A brilliant mechanic and sanity keeper in the midst of mayhem, Mona Lisa Vito was his creation. Their success in solving the crime would depend on her extensive understanding of autos and her no-nonsense attitude. After reading the script, 20th Century Fox immediately acquired it. However, the ideas didn't end there. In order to include his own life experiences into the writing, Launer went on a road trip through the South. While he was stuck in the mud, an accident that was included in the film, he encountered an assistant district attorney who would later become Lane Smith's character, Jim Trotter. After much investigation, Launer came to the conclusion that the way you learn about legal processes in school does not adequately prepare you for the realities of a true courtroom struggle. A lawyer with more grit and guts than book smarts, Vinny would have thrived in this role. A fantastic legal comedy, My Cousin Vinny is a combination of actual events, meticulous investigation, and imaginative storytelling. Not at all. Joe Pesci's own childhood thug served as an inspiration for Vinny Gambini. Given the part, Pesci's fierce and humorous performance was ideal. The individuals who wore leather jackets and spoke quickly were familiar to him. They could use their words to get out of any jam. He had a wealth of first-hand experience to draw on as a child growing up in New Jersey. Because of how well Pesci played the role, some people even believed he was a genuine lawyer. He nailed the bluster, lightning-fast retorts, and dogged persistence that concealed his ignorance of the material. Because of these traits, Vinny is able to be surprisingly successful while still being humorous. The true shocker is that the studio requested that Mona Lisa Vito be cut from the screenplay. Think of the film My Cousin Vinny if its most recognizable character weren't there. Dale Launer, thankfully, was not going to let it happen. However, in order to preserve the Mona Lisa, the filmmakers had to follow their rules. They wanted the usual plot point, with the girlfriend grumbling about being neglected while her boyfriend saves the day. Launer was strongly against the concept since he understood how much viewers loathed those kinds of situations. The strength and intelligence of the Mona Lisa prevented her from being reduced to a cliché. Launer came up with a brilliant solution. He had Mona Lisa complain, but in a hilarious, self-aware way that is completely unlike those obnoxious girlfriend clichés. It actually highlights her sharpness rather than diminishing it. Mona Lisa has a crystal-clear grasp of the problem and isn't bashful in telling Vinny how it is. Incorporating the anticipated conflict was one way this scene appeased the studio, but the sequence's primary purpose was to highlight the significance of the Mona Lisa to the film. Her thoughts matter, and she is more than simply a forgettable girlfriend. She is a collaborator, an equal. Launer kept Mona Lisa a vital and beloved element of My Cousin Vinny by flipping a routine plot on its head. The movie revolves around Mona Lisa, who is more than simply Vinny's girlfriend. She is the movie's voice of reason and its source of amusement and anger. She escaped deletion, which is a blessing. Suppose the sequence that became famous for your film was almost cut. My Cousin Vinny's famous biological clock scene is an example of this. Do you think it's real? The original screenplay did not include this humorous and unexpectedly moving sequence. Once again, the studio was at blame. They wanted Mona Lisa to have a more typical condition, but screenwriter Dale Launer had other ideas. What was his action? Yes, he penned the hilarious biological clock scenario, but he also showed Vinny's ignorance and Mona Lisa's emotions. Mona Lisa wants more than simply the continual courtroom drama revealed in this amusing scene. She longs for a future with her loved ones. She's more than simply a comic relief. She's an independent protagonist with her own dreams and ambitions. The tale works well with Vinny's genuine and comical worry. Anticipation is subtly teased in the moment. Instead of being a cliché, it adds depth to Mona Lisa's character and provides some of the film's most hilarious moments. It also prepares her for the movie's dramatic finale. The day was salvaged by Launer's genius. He catered to the studio's wishes, but in his own unique way. An additional noteworthy dimension to My Cousin Vinny was the situation he created, which is humorous and instructive. Casting Robert De Niro, a name synonymous with dramatic and serious roles, as Vinny Gambini. I know that sounds crazy, doesn't it? Screenwriter Dale Launer, nevertheless, came up with that concept first. He recognized the dramatic and comedic possibilities in Robert De Niro. But that didn't sway the studio president. Taxi Driver and Raging Bull, two dramatic films from the early 1990s starring Robert De Niro, brought him fame. In an Alabama courtroom, Vinny caused comic mayhem, and the studio head was not sure he could manage it. Despite Launer's foresight in recognizing De Niro's talent, his presentation to the studio president was unsuccessful. Just picture yourself attempting to persuade them that the actor famous for his dramatic parts could pull off the character of a comically naive lawyer with ease. Something felt off. On the other hand, De Niro's comedic chops would be on display in films like Meet the Parents. He was a multi-talented actor since he could play dramatic roles as well as comedic ones. By passing on what could have been an iconic and wonderfully humorous take on Vinny Gambini, the studio really blew a tremendous opportunity. Looking back on what may have been in Hollywood is always entertaining, even though Joe Pesci's performance became iconic instead. Envision Robert De Niro in that Alabama courtroom, looking bewildered and tough as pie. Traveling may sometimes spark the most brilliant thoughts. The genuine South, with all its peculiarities, tastes, and unforeseen moments, was what screenwriter Dale Launer yearned for, not a generic representation of the region. He decided to take a road trip in order to learn all the ins and outs of My Cousin Vinny. Picture Launer, all alone and out of place, picking up a rental car in New Orleans and driving throughout the South. He had an accident that was included in the film when he became mired in muck. Late at night, he would prepare the trial strategy accompanied by those enigmatic owl hoots and his obsession with grits. His real-world interactions with the sheriffs, judges, and even the vehicle specialist gave life to the film's vibrant characters. It is easy to imagine Launer taking notes on what he overheard, recording the accents of the people he met, and keeping in mind the faces he saw. Just a moment. Mona Lisa's testimony on Cars isn't what you would expect. There has never been a more iconic courtroom scene in cinema. The prosecution's case is skillfully dismantled by Mona Lisa Vito, who takes the stand with her razor-sharp style and even razor-sharper wit. Her extensive automotive expertise, honed in her father's garage, uncovers discrepancies and comes to the rescue in the end. The catch is that her testimony wasn't entirely truthful, despite being entertaining and noteworthy. There were just two vehicles in the 1960s that featured Petra, an independent rear suspension, according to Mona Lisa. The other was the 1963 Pontiac Tempest, This proves that Bill and Stan's automobile couldn't have left those tire impressions, but it turns out that another car from that year, a 1964 Studebaker Avanti, fitted the bill. Not cool, is it? Screenwriter Dale Launer found out the hard way when a high school friend who was into cars contacted to tell him about the error on opening night. The little element neither changes the storyline nor detracts from the scene's comedic value, so Launer wasn't very concerned. Despite his obsession with detail, at least his pal liked the film. Envision this: a self-assured Brooklyn lawyer encounters a slow-talking traditional Southern judge. The addition of regional dialects makes for a really entertaining and chaotic situation. The now famous two youths scenario really occurred in that same way. Vinny, who has a heavy New Jersey accent, speaks with assurance about the two juveniles who are facing murder charges. It has perplexed Judge Haller. He asks, "What's a youth?" with a little accent that makes the term seem quite foreign. This leads to the bewildered questioning and reiteration of "what's that?", which exacerbates the situation. Surprisingly, this wasn't even deliberated. This hilarious scene actually originated from a pre-production misunderstanding between Joe Pesci and director Jonathan Lynn. Because of her British accent, Lynn mistook Pesci's use of the word youths for something else, which may have been a transcribing mistake. The subsequent bewilderment became hilarious fodder. Recognizing the potential perfection of this situation was Lynn's genius. It brilliantly depicts Vinny's uncomfortable predicament in another land. It's not only about mispronouncing words. We honestly wouldn't have it any other way. That real-life misunderstanding gave rise to one of the most iconic comedy moments in film history. Even though Vinny Gambini manages to pull off miraculous courtroom feats at the film's conclusion, we must remember that he required 6 attempts to pass the bar exam. Why is it happening? Vinny was originally intended to be dyslexic, therefore that was the response in the screenplay. That would have given him more complexity and shed light on his difficulties. Nonetheless, this sequence was removed, and perhaps it was the wisest decision. There was a risk that Joe Pesci's uneasy portrayal of dyslexia might have diminished Vinny's intelligence. Screenwriter Dale Launer wanted viewers to be surprised. Therefore, he kept the explanation for Vinny's exam problems vague so that they would underestimate him. This raises the question, was he just terrible at tests? When he was a law student, did he drink too much? Did it think he wasn't good enough? Because viewers are left to speculate, Vinny becomes much more captivating. Real brilliance may emerge from the most unexpected places, as Launer recognized. Underneath Vinny's rough exterior comes a brilliant intellect and natural gift for legal strategy. Not having a simple reason to explain his early troubles would make his path from passing the bar test to becoming a successful lawyer less interesting. The Lee Arden Correctional Institute in Georgia served as the setting for some of the film's most frightening sequences. In pursuit of realism, director Jonathan Lynn whisked the whole team and cast inside a maximum security prison. Filming so near to death row gave Lynn the willies, and she knew it wasn't a set. It was also felt by the performers. As Stan Mitchell Whitfield recalled the terrifying sensation of trudging through chilly prison hallways wrapped in blankets, sensing the tangible tension. The terrifying taunts and cries heard in the jail sequences weren't staged. Rather, they were delivered by real inmates, lending an air of genuine realism and, dare I say it, terror to the scenes. The fact that the most upsetting remarks occurred, despite being deleted from the finished product, demonstrates the intensity of filming in that location. The setting wasn't the only thing that gave it an authentic feel. The guards you see on screen are real Lee Arden employees acting out their roles. Actors played by actual inmates were also utilized. They were convicts in the outdoor basketball scene, and appeared as ominous figures in the backdrop when Stan and Bill initially arrived. Lynn was amazed by the inmates' level of cooperation. In his analysis, he brought up the possibility of hidden penalties and incentives that were necessary to maintain order. The unexpected energy and tight mood of those jail scenes were intensified by the combination of real life and staged components. My cousin Vinny gained fresh insight from filming in a genuine prison. Shooting my cousin Vinny at a maximum security jail was a terrifying experience for everyone involved. Both Bill and Stan, played with believable sensitivity by Ralph Macchio and Mitchell Whitfield, were really frightened by the ordeal. Picture yourself surrounded by actual prisoners serving life sentences, some of whom are on death row and protected only by guards. Everyone was understandably anxious due to the near proximity to a potentially dangerous situation. Their performances genuinely convey the anxiety you feel, which adds an unnerving element to the picture. The performer's desire for Vinny Gambini to expedite their release is reasonable. The courtroom comedy, My Cousin Vinny, revolves around the extraordinary relationship between Joe Pesci and Marisa Tomei. Their on-screen relationship is electric, brimming with passionate debate, mutual annoyance, and unexpectedly genuine encouragement. However, there was no assurance of their success. It was surprising to see Pesci, who is known for dramatic parts and oddities outside of film, cast as the lead. This film marked the turning point in Tomei's career as a rising star. Even so, they hit it off right away, and Pesci ended up being a helpful mentor to them. Once he noticed her potential, he became her mentor and unwavering supporter as she broke into the industry of big-budget films. The studio may have had reservations about Tomei at first, but Pesci was certain she was the one to play Mona Lisa. Their closeness went beyond mere friendship. Tomei describes Pesci as really kind, and the two would often sing duets during set breaks. Moreover, Pesci brought his guitar. In addition to his many acting roles, the rugged guy turned out to have a stunning singing voice. The 22-year age difference between the two performers was concealed by their compelling on-screen chemistry. The production crew employed several ingenious techniques to compensate for this disparity and maintain Pesci's young appearance. To make Pesci look younger, makeup artist Carmen Willis said that they used a temporary facelift technique. A hairpiece masked the transformation's mechanisms while tabs and hooks subtly tightened his skin. It took a long time, but Pesci did it expertly. There were still times when the tab fell, causing amusing situations to occur while filming, no matter how careful they were. The path that led to Marisa Tomei's Oscar victory was not one of glitz and glitter. On the contrary, she was sound asleep on the couch of a friend who was imminently about to give birth. My Cousin Vinny's atmosphere was well suited to this frenzied intensity. Just picture her pals erupting in a fit of hysteria as they watch the Oscar nominations on TV. Assuming her buddy is about to give birth, Tomei is jolted awake. With a desperate cry of, "Let's get you to the hospital!" she is prepared to dash to the hospital in a flash. Tomei's face must have looked priceless when her companions finally conveyed their joy among all the revelry. Suddenly I was shocked, then confused. And then I realized that Marisa Tomei, who was famous for My Cousin Vinny, was nominated for an Oscar. Like the film's own voyage, this one is full of delightful surprises. Although first disregarded, Tomei's brilliance was indisputable, similar to Vinny's legal acumen. With her shocking Academy Award victory, Mona Lisa Vito cemented her place in Hollywood history and cemented her status as one of the most iconic characters in cinema. Your time here is appreciated. Till next time.